You are standing in your own kitchen at 4 in the afternoon in the middle of July. The air conditioner has been running since 10 this morning. You can hear it out there, straining against the side of the house like a tired animal, and the room still feels like a held breath. You open the freezer for no reason at all except to feel something cold on your face. And in the back of your mind, you are already doing the arithmetic on next month's bill. Now let me tell you about a man named Amos Byler, who farms about 2 miles outside Intercourse in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Amos has no compressor, no condenser fan, no electric meter on the side of his house. And on the day I sat with him last August, when the thermometer nailed to his barn post read 94 degrees, the air inside his summer kitchen was 63. He did it with a coil of pipe in a ditch. That is the whole secret. And it cost him about the price of a decent dinner. I want to be honest with you about how I got there, because I did not arrive at Amos Byler's place as a clever man. I arrived as a man who had already spent the money. 2 summers ago, I got 3 quotes on a geothermal system. The lowest was $15,000. The highest was $22,000. All 3 men used the same phrase, more or less, proprietary loop field. And all 3 walked my yard with a tablet and told me my payback period would be somewhere around 11 years, assuming I stayed put and the compressor held. I did not sign. But I did spend $400 on a portable unit and another $60 on a window fan, and the summer electric bill still came in at $191 in August. That is what I had to show for my modern thinking. $191 and a house that was still too warm to sleep in. Amos listened to all of that on his porch without saying much. Then he said, "Did any of them mention the ground?" Here is why what he does works, and it is not mysterious. 4 to 6 feet below the grass in your yard, the soil temperature holds steady somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees, all year, every year. The air above can hit 98 in August or 14 in February. The earth at that depth does not notice. It is too heavy to notice. That is why caves stay cool. That is why root cellars kept butter hard for 200 years before anybody plugged anything into a wall. That is why your basement floor is cold under your bare feet right now. The earth under your lawn is a thermal battery the size of the planet, and it is fully charged. And there is a second number that makes the whole thing practical, and almost nobody says it out loud. Water carries roughly 3,500 times more heat per unit of volume than air does. That is not a slogan, it is measured volumetric heat capacity, and you can find it in any first-year thermodynamics text. It means a 3/4-inch tube of moving water pulls more cold out of the ground in one pass than a foot-wide air duct could manage in 20. Small pipe, small trench, one afternoon with a shovel. Now, the paper trail. The USDA was publishing farmers' bulletins on cooling milk with groundwater and spring water from before the First World War straight through the 1940s. Cheap little booklets, mailed free, telling a farmer how to hold cream at 50 degrees with stone, water, and gravity. My grandfather's generation had those on a shelf in the barn. Somewhere in the 1950s and into the 1960s, that literature quietly stopped being reprinted, and what replaced it were bulletins about bulk tanks, compressors, and electrical service upgrades. Nobody banned anything. Understand that. There was no meeting. It is simpler and colder than that. There is no marketing budget for a coil of plastic pipe in a ditch. There is no annual service agreement on a hole in the ground. The HVAC trade in this country runs well over $100 billion a year, and better than half of that is recurring. Inspections, refrigerant top-offs, control boards, filters, and the replacement cycle every 12 to 15 years. A buried loop has no compressor, no refrigerant, no board, and nothing to fail. That is a feature for you. It is a problem for them. And here is the strangest part. Your building code does not forbid it. It simply does not mention it. There is no permit category, no inspection line, no box to check. It is not banned. It is invisible. And invisible things do not get sold to you. Now, if you are sitting there thinking this is only for people building a new house out in the country, I want you to stay right where you are. because this next part is aimed squarely at the man who already owns his home and has no intention of tearing anything up. You need 3 things. First, 3/4-inch PEX tubing, the same crosslink pipe used in radiant floors. A 300-foot coil runs somewhere between $55 and $80 at any hardware store, and you will use about 2/3 of it. Second, a small 12-volt circulation pump rated around 130 gallons an hour, $12 to $18. Third, a heater core out of a car. New, $20. Out of a junkyard, $5. Or free if the fellow likes you. Add a couple of brass barbs, 2 hose clamps, and a box fan you already own. Friday evening, you mark a trench, 60 feet long if you have the room, straight or gently curved, 20 feet or so off the house. Saturday, you dig it 4 to 5 feet deep. In loose soil, a man with a trenching shovel does that in an afternoon. In clay, rent a walk-behind trencher for $150 for a half day and be done by lunch. Lay the pipe back and forth in a serpentine, roughly a foot between passes. Staple it down so it does not float. Bring both ends up as risers and backfill. Saturday afternoon, you build the indoor half. Heater core in a plywood box, open on 2 sides, fan blowing through it. Tubing from the risers to the core. Pump on the supply side. Fill it with a garden hose. Bleed the air until the water runs clean and quiet and close the loop. Sunday morning, you turn on the pump and go have your coffee. 20 minutes later, you put your hand in front of that fan and feel 63-degree air coming off a plastic pipe in your own yard, running on about 20 watts. Your central unit draws 3,500. Now here is the part Amos did not volunteer until my 3rd visit, and he only told me because I asked the right question. Do not just shovel the dirt back in. When you backfill, wet it. Fill the trench a few inches at a time and run the hose on it until it turns to slurry. Then let it settle, then add more. The Amish out that way call it mudding it in. What you are doing is driving out every air pocket around that pipe, because air is an insulator and soil is a conductor. And a loop backfilled dry can sit inside a jacket of loose voids that cuts your heat transfer badly for the first 2 or 3 seasons until the ground finally packs on its own. Mud it in on Saturday and you get full performance on Sunday instead of in 2029. If your yard is heavy clay, put 2 or 3 inches of gravel under and around the pipe first, then mud the rest. That one step is the difference between a loop that drops your room 10 degrees and one that drops it 18. This is one of dozens of things that did not disappear because they stopped working. They disappeared because nobody could build a quarterly earnings report around them. There are a lot of us now, people in our 50s and 60s and 70s, going back and picking up what our grandparents put down. So tell me in the comments, what state are you in? How deep does the frost line run where you live? And which single room would you cool first? I read those, and the answers change depending on your soil. Subscribe if you want to keep pulling this stuff back out of the dark, not to make my numbers bigger. Next week, the 1938 milk house that held cream at 48 degrees on nothing but a stone trough and a gravity spring, and the one detail about where the outflow pipe sits that everybody gets wrong.